Hello, everybody. So today, uh, I'm going to talk about something known as big data. This is one of the topic that is tested in a lot of papers in ACCA further, but it is also a very significant topic in terms of management accounting, which is the F2 paper. Let's talk about what big data is. So, big data is a vast amount of data which is generated by consumers in the context of management accounting, which can be analyzed to identify patterns, to identify trends, to identify their behaviors. Now, this data can come from various sources, like social media, from online transactions, from sensors, etc. Now, let's break down the characteristics of big data, all right? There's something known as the three V's model, all right? Uh, this model typically has terms which start from V, and there are three terms. The first one being namely volume. The second. Excuse me. Yeah. So volume. Now talking about volume. Volume means what? Volume is enormous, a lot of quantity of data which is generated. So if you have to write it in one line, you would say volume refers, refers to the enormous quantity of data available, the data which is generated. Think of it like every time you interact with a website or every time you interact with a social media platform or an online service, you tend to generate data. Now, this data can come in the form of what? It could come in the form of social media posts, in the form of emails, text messages, photos, in the form of videos, in the form of voice recordings, in the form of podcasts. If you measure sensor data, then it could come in the form of temperature, it could come in the form of location, in the form of motion sensors. So the volume of data is massive. And nowadays it has been growing exponentially even more because of the modern technology and all of that. Now, uh, talking about the second V, that is variety. What is variety in one line? Variety refers to the diverse range of data, diverse range of the data types. Okay. Now, there are a lot of types of data. You could say one of the types is structured data. It is what is structured data? It is easily organized, it is easily analyzed. For example, spreadsheets, databases. Then there is something called unstructured data, which is very difficult to analyze, which is not very organized, like your images, your videos, your audio files. And then there is something called your semi-structured data. That is a mix of structured and unstructured data, like your emails, your social media posts, all of that. So the variety, the various type of data, it makes it very challenging to analyze what exact information that you're looking for, and to extract a particular valuable insight that you want as a form of your data. All right. Now the third and the last V is your velocity under your three V's model. What is velocity? Velocity is the speed at which data is generated. Right? It is the speed at which data is generated. It is the speed at which the data is processed. With the rise of, the real-time data nowadays, organizations need to process, they need to analyze the data to make any kind of decisions. Think of this like if you're a manager at an e-commerce company and you want to know about the changes of, again, customer behavior and customer preferences as soon as possible. What can you do? You can adjust your marketing strategies accordingly, right? So this is what is velocity. Now, there are some additional V's that we could talk about, which is outside the three V's model. additional V's. What are these additional V's? So the first V that we could talk about is your veracity. Okay. It so in simple words, you could say it refers to accuracy. How accurate your data is, how reliable your data is, the trustworthiness of data. Okay. It's very essential to ensure that the data is complete, it is consistent. Okay. If, say, you're analyzing customer data and you want to make sure that the data is accurate and up to date, this is the only way you can know that your decision making is accurate, your decision making is reliable, when you measure veracity of the data. All right. Then the next additional V is the value. It's called value. What is value? It represents the end goal of big data, the initiatives taken, right? The ultimate objective is to extract valuable insights, right? And actionable information from the data, which can then drive business decisions. It can improve the processes. It can create strategic outcomes, right? Now, this is all about the V's, okay? The three V's model, which has volume, variety, and velocity. And then you have two additional V's, which is your veracity and your value. Now, there are some benefits, all right? Firstly, your first benefit is you can examine vast quantities of data quickly, relatively quickly. It enables the organizations to analyze data sets very quickly, which can lead to faster decision making, obviously, right? I'm so sorry. Then your second benefit is, you could say, it improves organizational decision making. It improves your organizational decision making. It can give you valuable insights, and you can form very good strategic decisions. Okay. Then you can have a greater focus on the individual customer. Okay. The big data analytics that it provides, it can enable organizations to understand individual customer preferences, individual customer behaviors, which can lead to what? It can lead to more personalized marketing and more improved customer experiences, right? Then it could retain customer loyalty, all of that. Also, it leads to cost reduction. Okay, it's one of the main benefits. It can help organizations in optimizing their processes to reduce wastage, to improve the efficiency, which can eventually lead to some kind of cost savings. Now, there are some risks also, since this is data, since this is something that you don't have control over. So there is always going to be a lot of risks. One of the first risks is data security concerns. Very obvious risk, right? It can be very vulnerable to security breaches, which can compromise the sensitive information that you've put up, right? Incorrect data can lead to incorrect conclusions in the end, because if the data is inaccurate, if it is incomplete, it can lead to a very flawed decision making, right? Then you have poor handling of big data that can lead to issues. Okay. Now, this big data, it requires specialized skills. It requires infrastructure to manage very effectively. So if it is handled very poorly, it can lead to reputational damage of an organization. It could lead to some kind of fines or penalties by government if you tend to breach any kind of law or regulation, if you misuse the data, right? Then Data that may be of no use to the company is collected and stored. Now, sometimes you tend to store, capture kind of data which is of no use, which is not relevant to what you're looking for. But sometimes this happens. So what happens? Your data capture costs increases, your data overload happens, which can be very challenging to identify the valuable insights that you were looking for in the first place. Okay. Now, let's look at one of an example of how big data is used in real life. Okay. Um, Big data is widely used in the hospitality industry to understand customer preferences and personalize their experiences. For instance, hotels can analyze data from various sources. What can hotels analyze from various sources? They could do online reviews, ratings, social media posts, their interactions. They could do a loyalty program data, as I mentioned. They could do customer feedback forms as to how the experience of the customer was. By analyzing all this data that they've collected, then the hotels can then gain valuable insights into customer preferences, like the room type or the amenities or the dining preferences or leisure activities, location, or any kind of proximity to any particular attraction that they liked. Then hotels will be able to use these insights to personalize the customer experiences as if what this particular customer likes or dislikes, offer targeted promotions, and then this could eventually improve the overall satisfaction of the customer. Big data is very helpful in such things. So I hope you understood this concept of big data, its characteristics, its benefits, its risks. If you have any other questions, you can always contact me through the comments below. Thank you so much for watching my video. Stay tuned for further videos.